My habit is to start the meeting right on time.
Lunch break.
My habit is to start the meeting right on. So we got a bunch of people on. Anybody that's not talking should go to mute if you can. If you're on your phone, I know it's more difficult, so we'll see what happens with that. Kevin, we can see that you're on screen. We could try unmuting and see if we can talk to you.
Hi there.
Okay, there you are.
Yep.
Okay, 1 minute. Okay, looks like it's 1 o'clock, and I'd like to call a meeting to order and recognize that we are meeting on the traditional territories of the Apachesit and Tishat First Nations for the most part. Not quite sure where everybody is, and ask for an approval of the agenda. So we got Pam and second, Harold, and any changes wanted to the agenda? We're going to introduce our new manager, Eddie, here in a minute, but that's sort of part of the agenda, but we'll sort of slip it in there. So on the agenda, all in favor? Okay, and I'm assuming Kevin's in favor. We're approved. And we should say that we are live streaming this as well. So got to keep your language within the barriers. And next, I guess we'll have an introduction of Eddie Kunderman by Jenny.
Thank you, Mr. McNabb. So I'd like to introduce to the committee Eddie Kunderman, who is our new manager of operations. Eddie has joined us, I don't know how long ago, 3 years ago, 3 minutes ago. It feels like it could be either or. He's on a very steep learning curve, taking care of water systems, Salmon Beach, transit, and so many other little things that come up. It is crazy. Eddie joins us from BC Transit, where he had worked and oversaw a number of the biggest operation systems in BC. And he has family here in Port Alberni and is from here. So, and I think he actually just might be moving into a house soon in the next few weeks. So he's a happy addition, and we're very happy to have him.
Thanks, Jenny. I appreciate it. It's good to be here.
Okay, so now we have the minutes of the previous meeting of November 18th, 2020. Any errors or omissions, stuff you didn't say in there or anything? No. Approval of the minutes, somebody move them? Harold, and who's seconded that? Pam? So Pam, I can only see Pam and Mike. So all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Carried. Okay, now we have Jenny can maybe tackle this, or Eddie, whoever wants to, with regards to the terms of reference. I don't think there's really anything that we need to be changing there. It looks to be, in my mind, substantive. So Jenny, would you like to sort of take the rationale for that?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. So all of the committees review their terms of reference annually at the first meeting of the year, which this is. And normally, well, or there can be changes, but there seldom is. And in this case, all of our committee terms of reference are having a new reference put in to do with the regional district strategic plan. So we want to make sure that sort of that becomes one of the guiding documents for all of the committees as we're making decisions. So there is a link to that. And I don't know if any of the committee members don't have a copy and would like one, we'd be happy to share that with you. But that is the only addition that staff are recommending. And because we're changing the terms of reference and it is part of a bylaw, we will be doing a bylaw amendment as well, just to update that So we've asked for a recommendation to go to the Regional District Board to make that change. And if the committee would like to see any other changes, we can consider that as well.
Okay, any questions with regards to this? So we could entertain the motion that is there. If somebody would like to move that.
I'll move the motion.
Okay, Pam? You're muted. You're muted, Harold.
Okay, I'll second it.
Okay, thanks. I thought that's what you were saying, but I'm not too good at reading lips. I'm getting better though with this Zoom thing. So any further comment with regards to this? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Nobody, we're carried. Okay, I'd just like to take a second to, you can see on our screen that we've got two new members of our committee. Mike Kobus is a fire chief, and thank you for coming aboard to align alignment with the fire department is always helpful. And we've got Kevin Gadet, who is actually working for the city in water capacity, so which is awesome because we can sort of get that continued expertise, and we all know the city knows more than we do, so that's always great. So thanks for coming aboard, Kevin and Mike. So now we have the annual report. So who's taking that? Did you load that over on Eddie? Come on, that would be fun.
I am too kind, you're right. Thank you, Mr. Chair. So we have the annual report presenting as we have last year and the year before, and it's a relatively good news story in most regards. We've managed to do better at hitting some of our targets, but we do have a recurring challenge with the infrastructure renewal. So if you had a chance to review the report, you'll see that the water quality targets have all been met. We have excellent water quality coming in. We have seen a little bit of a leveling off with the disinfection byproducts. And the reason why you see that in the graph is simply that they vary throughout the year. When we're on the China Creek water system, there's very little color or any kind of organics that would create any kind of disinfection byproduct. So as long as we're on that system, the numbers are always very low. There's always a time of the year, usually in the fall, when the turbidity picks up and we have to switch over to Bainbridge. And when we're on Bainbridge Lake, it's just the nature of the water source. There's a lot of leaves and it causes high color, which will then always create a little bit of higher trihalomethanes. But the time that we're on that water source is very small compared to China Creek. So it depends when we're taking the samples on when we would see a noticeable tick on our trihalomethanes. So we're doing a random grab sample on that throughout the year, and it's very unlikely that we hit it when we're on the Bainbridge water system. So what we've seen for the last few years now that we're doing it randomly is that we just don't end up hitting those times. So the trihalomethanes are almost always meeting the target as well, which is good. But that was just a sampling practice change. The good news was the average demand drop. So we saw a reduction down to 342 liters per capita per day from about 374 last year. And I think we were around 360 the year before. Our target is 350. So we got under it, like just under it, which is great. And we probably think that that's because we did reduce the minimum allowable amount down to 90 cubic meters per quarter. And we did that in February. When we sent out the information, we sent a big water conservation notice as well, letting people know well ahead of time, you know, like this summer, you might want to conserve water. And when we look at the annual graph, what we do see is less. So say in 2019, from May to August, we had this higher summer consumption. It kind of was constant for the full 3 months. And in 2020, we didn't see that. And we only really saw a peak in August. And that was probably due to a weather event. And it was just getting hot. So we assume that's mostly related to that. And part of the other thing we thought of, well, what about COVID impacts? I don't know. There's no data saying that, you know, water systems in general noticed less water use during COVID. We don't have that information yet. I was thinking it through, and I actually think that it should have had an opposite effect. It should have pushed it up because most people are at home, more people are gardening, and so we should have actually seen more water use. So that speaks again to how well our conservation efforts have been. So that's really good news, I think. The other good news is the reduction in leakage. So we've been at about 30% of leakage, and last year we were down to 23%. And that is great. Of course, we still have a long ways to go, but to move that far is really amazing. And I know Matt was saying after we had finished the Fayette and Lamarck, he was like, oh yeah, we're seeing nighttime flows at basically 0, which doesn't mean that we're not going to start to see pops in other spots in the water system, but it just speaks to why it's so important that we're replacing these failing water lines, because when we reduce leakage, we pay less money in bulk water fees to the city. Not that we mind paying the city, but if we can pay less or pay what we're actually using, that's good. And then the operation and maintenance costs go down because we're not doing emergency responses in the evening. It's very expensive to do leak repairs. So that's all really good news. So a lot of the work that we've done over the last few years, and we talk a bit about the projects in the annual report as well. So we did Fayette and Lamarck, and we also were able to deal with a small section of Compton and Beaver Creek Road, where we transferred the services over to the city. So that was getting rid of just quite a section of water line that is old and aging and leaking. So really good news on that standpoint. We added in a new target this year because we've completed our asset management plan for the water system, and we've talked before with the committee about how important that is. Again, this relates so much to having these failing water lines, but the key is that we need to realize how much money it's going to cost us to basically replace this over time. And we know what that number is now. We've done a full assessment of the water system. We know many connections we have, and we sort of now have targets and what we're trying to aim for to do a capital contribution. So from our asset management plan, it recommends an annual contribution of $796,000. And that equates to, if we do it by parcel water connection, sort of similar, it's $768 per parcel per year. And we're contributing right now about $344. So we're not there yet. We're less than halfway there. That's okay. We're going to continue to move in that direction. Of course, we'll continue to apply for grants and things like that, but we really need to focus on putting more money into the capital because we see the benefits of, we really see the benefits even this last year, reduced leakage, reduced operating costs, all these excellent benefits. Some other items that we finished in 2020 is we did the Stamp River intake and Mackenzie pump station assessment, which was excellent. And we did complete the design of Karen Place. Now, Karen Place is going to be the next water main that needs to be replaced. And in fact, this year, we've already had a few breaks there. So we know it's in a good spot being at the top of our list. Unfortunately, we don't have that scheduled for construction until 2022, but it is a shelf-ready project. So we can move forward with that whenever we have some money. We just have spent all our money, which is good. So we've replaced all those water lines, and we've put in some grant applications that we haven't heard back on. And our capital plan just isn't able to, it doesn't have enough money to be as aggressive as we have been so far. So we do have a recommendation in here, which is related to the biggest, topic in the annual report, which is that we would like to try to put more money into capital. And looking at the water rates was one of the things we're like, well, how's our water rate right now? And the last time we've had a water rate increase was in 2015. And the rate is still currently $51.67. So it's been the same for 5 years. We haven't been adjusting for the consumer price index or cost of living. So in theory, prices of everything else have been going up and we're still charging the same. So we're actually kind of losing a little money. We're not recommending a big jump for a number of reasons, but I felt that it would be appropriate to consider just doing an adjustment to the consumer price index. So if we do the change, the consumer price increase every single year, so from 2015 all the way up to 2021, we should be looking at a water rate of 57.54. And that would be basically keeping it the same, but just adjusting for the cost of living. That is an adjustment from, say, just over $51 to just over $57. So that is $6 a month increase. And staff have made that recommendation for the committee's consideration. I think that's everything I have.
One question there from Harold.
Yes, on the, now the water rates, that's part of the toll portion. But on the taxes, which is applied to all property holdings, whether or not they're being serviced by the water system. My question there is, on these major replacement programs, what percentage of the total capital cost of each major project can we expect support from higher levels of governments by various means of grants?
Well, I don't know the answer to that. We do have the federal provincial government has almost every year for a number of years, and it's changed names, but it does typically try to give out money throughout the province for, especially focused on water and wastewater and other infrastructure projects. We made the application for the Georgia and Falls project to that fund. Right now it's called the Investing in Canadian Infrastructure Program. We haven't heard back. So we also have put in a grant application for a project in Banfield. We also haven't heard back. So, and in a lot of grants, I don't know if we're going to be successful on that. And I'm so sorry. I haven't, it's a lot of future telling. I couldn't tell you. We do have community works funding, which is a guaranteed allocation to each regional district. And we did recently use some of that money in order to help do the project on Fayette and Lamarck. So we have that guaranteed funding that typically the regional district has tried to apportion population wise. And so Beaver Creek is getting a sort of a proportional amount, and we have spent it on the water system to date. There, in theory, if we continue that way, it'll be the same moving forward.
Yeah, John, I wonder who would be your resource within the regional district to determine the grant availabilities? Because there's large directors.
It's the board.
The board themselves.
The board decides the allocation of the capital works fund for their gas tax money. The board decides where that's going to go. So it's my job to sell the Beaver Creek concept. We've done pretty good at it. We're actually ahead of some of the other districts, but the board has been generous at times, and Banfield has really got quite a bit of benefit out of the Community Works Fund. So I'll be going after, for this next project coming up, I'll be going after gas tax for that. I know we've made other applications, but I'll be trying to get our portion of the 2022 gas tax allocated for that as quickly as I can. But it's a board decision, where those go. The other grants, we're applying for grants. The decision on whether we get them or not is not ours at all. And to try to figure out a percentile, the one thing that I was kind of wondering, and I don't think that Jenny's going to be able to answer this, but somebody else in staff probably could, is when you get a contribution from a grant contribution, it should be a capital. It should affect our capital input as far as asset management is concerned, because that money is being granted back from some level of government, and it should go towards where we've got this 344 and 768. It should become part of that factor to say that we've put that money into there. We could have put it into something else. I got a couple of parks that I just really love to put some money in, but we focused it on the water system because I think it's higher value to the other thing that I was going to mention was leakage. I don't know if we've actually gone back and looked at Consexus Reservoir #1. That was a problematic leaking reservoir, and we replaced it with a new one because of that. And then we repaired it for a song and a dance later. And I'm just wondering if some of our leakage is actually reoccurring from that reservoir.
Well, that would be evident by just observing the drainage from the area, I would think.
Yeah, but if it goes underground, depending on if it's cracked again or where it's decided to run, I don't know if we've taken a really good look at that and said, okay, well, it's not leaking any more than it was. I mean, what they did before is separated it, and then and watched how the level of discharge on it. So,
No, getting back to my original question about the grant funding, gas tax, is that provincial or federal government source? Federal. Yeah. No, you often hear programs that get introduced, but they have to be shovel ready.
Yeah.
And that's where I certainly support the preliminary engineering work that's done to establish the scope and cost.
Well, we're in a good position on the Karen Place one because it is shovel ready.
Yeah.
And my recommendation is that we keep one shovel ready ahead of us.
Yeah, exactly.
Just so we can take advantage of those things that come up. Anybody else got any questions or comments? Kevin?
No, not me.
Gord?
No, I'm fine, thank you.
Okay. Mikey? You look like you're stalled on us. Okay.
John, I was just going to say the Consexus Reservoir is looked at upwards of 3+ times a week, and there's definitely no leakage coming out of the reservoir. Since we did that crack sealing there, it's been as solid as it could be for what it is. And since we've done a lot of the replacement, like Jenny said, we've been seeing those 0 liter per second Consexus between 3 a.m. to 5 a.m. and then people start using water again. A lot of our problems are the mains leaking and services, direct taps. And yeah, it's tough to say, tough to pinpoint unless we come out in the middle of the night. Some of those times where we see those flows a little higher and start closing valves, then we can isolate some of it. But the flow's been so good lately, it hasn't been a concern.
Okay, that's good to know. Okay, so we've got a motion, as I find it, to receive the report, and then we've got the discussion with regards to the $7 increase in charges. Would somebody like to receive the annual report? Pam, seconder.
Okay.
Gord?
I'll second that.
Okay.
Yes.
Ready? Any
Seconded.
further discussion on the report itself? None? All in favor of receiving the report?
All right.
Aye.
We're all in
Aye.
favor. Appreciate that. Thank you. And the next one is that Beaver Creek Advisory Committee recommend that the ACRD Board of Directors increase the water rates to $57 a month in the Beaver Creek water system effective July 1st, 2021. So I know that the other figure's hidden in here. What was it, 51?
Yeah, 51.
5167.
Why wasn't it just put in at our 155 for a quarter going up to 160 something? Is there a reason for that? Or most people I don't think they know what they pay per month. So
Are you thinking that we should be more clear in the resolution from what the existing rate is to what the new one is?
Well, no, it's perfectly clear to me what it is, but I was looking at that and I thought, well, we pay 155 a quarter, and I thought, well, what are we doing at $57 a month now? But you do the math, it all works out the same thing. So it's just, we don't normally, we've been looking at it at a quarterly rate for so long.
Because we bill quarterly. Part of the reason that we talk in months, and this is sort of a human psychology thing, if we could tell you what the rate was per day, we'd tell you, because it's a lot less. And so it's only $2 a day. And it's one of the challenges that we work with from local government to try and make people see that it's not as expensive as it sounds, right?
Okay.
So we're moving in the direction of insurance companies. For $2 a day, you can get water.
True.
Yeah.
So when my neighbor asks me why I agree to raise their water rates, in comparison, and it's hard to compare because every area is so different, what are our rates like compared to other regions?
Oh, that's a good question. I'm so sorry I don't have that at the tip of my fingers. I'm just trying to think even what the city rates are.
I think that in many ways we're median, not high or low, but many areas are paying a lot more for water than we do.
One of the things that we can do from a staff level too, because we will need to do a public communication on this, is that we can put together a one-page information sheet, which would end up going with the water bills anyhow. And I think that that's a really valuable, right? Because this is going up. Is that high? Is it low? What is it? And we can put some relative information in that, and staff can send that off to the committee as well, which you'll get it ahead of time. So
that would be really helpful to, especially a couple of the neighbors that I usually end up having to argue with.
Yeah, I mean, I think the value of our system is actually underpriced, compared to the market. I think, because of the quality of the service and the product that we're delivering. It's when I first moved to Beaver Creek, I filled up my bathtub, and I thought, I'm not getting in that thing. Because it was awful, and now it's perfectly clear, and it makes a huge difference. The quality of that water. I mean, we're using it every day. We're drinking it every day. I'm not sure, the effect of drinking what was in my bathtub on a long-term basis would be really helpful to your health. So I know that the previous committees and everything worked as hard as they could, and tried to do it the best they could with the money that they had in front of them. But I think that the level of service that we're providing now, and the scrutiny to it, and the availability of grants and all the rest of that is really set us the bar a lot higher for us.
I remember those days too, and if we can find a way to make that part of our information sheet, that would be good.
I think I have pictures.
This is what we used to have.
That's right. It's hard to think, coming from Sproul Lake, where I had a filter on it, but I mean, it was a very, it's just a small filter, and I'd never noticed the tub being like that. And then the first time I filled it up, I was like, oh, geez. Okay, so
Just on that point though, Pam, when I was on the board years back on the Beaver Creek Improvement District board, one of the things we often faced were complaints from the residents about our rates being higher than the cities. There was one particular customer there who was very vocal about that, to the point I said, well, if you don't like our rates, you can go join the city.
Yeah.
And he had that option.
if you're going to give them like a 2-mile
The thing
hose.
is, with a rural system, you've got more infrastructure for less density of users. So there's a reason why rates will vary, depending on the nature of the geographic nature of the communities.
So do we have any concept of how many new connections we had this year?
That's a very good point, Harold, and I try to explain that in many ways to certain individuals. Yeah.
In 2020, we had 9 new connections, and I'm not sure how many we've had to date in 2021 so far, but the development is picking up.
But it's one of these things too, that what doesn't go up. So, I've always said that little increases, I think, are probably easier to handle, and we got to have them. Nobody likes to pay more, but what are you going to do? And what goes down when you go to the grocery store or the gas pump or anywhere else? So, we don't have a choice if we want water, good water. So what can we do?
Yeah, our newest truck in 1995 was about $3,000. Our new truck now was 45. So
Yeah.
Okay.
Hey, John, I was just going to say we've done 2 new services so far this year, and there's like 6 to 8 kind of pending applications in the works.
Awesome. Okay, so we have a motion in front of us with regards to the $57, which is actually isn't 57, it's 6 as far as we're talking. So the raise. So would somebody like to make that motion?
I'll make the motion. I've got thick skin.
Oh, you can always send them to me. Seconder on that.
I'll second it.
All right.
Any other discussion on the rate increase from 51.67 to 57.54 per month? All in favor?
Aye.
All right.
Anybody opposed? Carried. Appreciate it. Thank you. So I don't think we have any late business, have we? No. Any questions from online? No. Do we get anybody online? Can you see that?
We don't have any registered participants, but we are live streaming. So
YouTube, yeah.
Without
Okay.
registering. So.
Alrighty. So that's it. A motion to adjourn. Nobody wants to go home? Harold goes. Who seconded that? Pam. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
All right.
Thank you for your service. Appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone.
Okay.
Thanks, Harold.
Yep.